Hi all, welcome to our ESSEC Alumni webinar and thank you for being here with us today. My name is Ian Ong and I am the Alumni Relations Manager for ESSEC Asia Pacific. I am happy to introduce our alumni speaker Ranjita, who is Director of Orxa Energies. She will be speaking on lessons on sustainability learned from COVID-19. Should you have any questions that you'd like to ask the speaker, please ask them via the chat group. We'll try our best to answer them during the Q&A session. Without further ado, I shall now pass the mic over to Ranjita.
Hi all, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm Ranjita Ravi. Just to introduce myself, I'm the co-founder of Orxa Energies. I'll introduce Orxa Energies in the next slide. I'm from ESSEC. I did my business school at ESSEC in the Paris campus and I graduated in 2013. Before ESSEC, I was working in Merck Millipore, which makes equipment for pharmaceutical companies. Then I was with Sanofi. I did my apprentissage from ESSEC with Sanofi, worked there after my graduation, came back to India, worked in a couple of companies, including AB InBev, which makes Budweiser and Corona. And now I have my own startup. It's called Orxa Energies. Through my career, I worked on different fields. I worked in sales. That's where I started off, in field sales. Moved to marketing, internal audit, and now I'm just a jack of all trades. You have my email ID or my LinkedIn. You can connect to me for sure. So what does Orxa Energies do? We build performance electric vehicles and energy systems, so battery packs. You have in the images here two of our prototypes. These are prototypes 7 and 8, which we took to a very large event. It's called India Bike Week. It's Asia's largest motorcycling event, premium motorcycling event, with more than 20,000 people who come to Goa every year in the end of the year, and it's covered extensively by very specific audience of premium bikers. So this will be India's first fully electric naked sports motorcycle. Apart from this, our strongest business line until now has been our battery packs. We make modular, stackable, swap-ready battery packs. So the same battery pack has been validated in 6 different automotive platforms. So whether it's a scooter, all the way until a very large goods carrier for intra-city deliveries, we use the same battery pack and stack them up in different ways. And this is something that our technology and our engineering team has done. We also work a lot in aerospace because my co-founder and our CTO are from very strong aerospace backgrounds, and we are accelerated by Airbus BizLab, which is the accelerator of the giant French aerospace company Airbus. In the rest of the presentation, you will have links to different videos. I will not play them. You can always refer to them later, just in the interest of time and just to keep things more interactive. Yeah. So these are our motorcycles. This is how you swap them out. These are our battery packs that we put in different systems. A couple of other links that you have about what we did at India Bike Week and some track day where some pro riders came and threw the bike around the track. So what do I want to talk to you about today? Since the lockdown started, the entire global pandemic has put more than half the planet under lockdown. Different countries are calling it, of course, different things, whether they call it a lockdown or a shelter in place. But since these lockdowns started, and it's about 60 days for most of the world now, reports, images, media reports, satellite data from around the world are coming in on the impact of these lockdowns on air, on water, on energy, and generally the ecosystem around us. It's taken a 60-day lockdown to sort of prove to us that climate change is real and it's actually caused by us. It's a little bit perverse. I do not mean to imply that this lockdown should continue. It has come at a great economic cost and at a human cost as well. But it is disturbing to see what the actual baseline is, right? So in the talk, I'm going to be segmenting it into 3 sections. First, the impact in 3 different ways, which is air, water, energy, and transportation. Then we can talk about a couple of case studies about Orxa's customers, our customers and their success stories, and a little bit about how we've contributed to it. And then let's talk about startup ecosystems, right? In the startup ecosystem, how can we sustainably tackle these above examples, right, of air, water, and energy and transportation sustainably while running profitable business? What I would like as an objective at the end of this discussion is if I can somehow convince you that sustainability is a valid, scalable, profitable, and very large opportunity target market. Yeah. So let's go ahead with these. So like I said, in 3 sections, what the impact has been, couple of case studies of what our customers have done, and other sustainability startups in the ecosystem. So lockdown has been a wake-up call for sustainability. Less than 6 months ago, as happens every year in Delhi in winter, because of the general air currents plus the end of the crop growing season and the stubble burning, Delhi was gasping for breath. The AQI went from 500, 600, where it is supposed to be normally of around 50. Air quality had reached unbearable levels. Schools were shut, and people were told to just not go out or just wear masks when they go out. Over this lockdown, as you can see in 2 examples here, Venice, Italy, just January 2018, and a similar period here of April 2020. This is the India Gate, which is a war memorial in New Delhi, which is the capital of India. October 2019, around the similar time as this news report came out, this was what the air looked like. And India Gate, during the 21-day lockdown, it's the first part of the lockdown that we had, the air quality had massively improved. This is a extract of the report from the Central Pollution Control Board of India. What they did by analyzing the data at Delhi during this period was that they estimated that at least 70% of the pollution of the Delhi city is caused locally, is generated locally, and of course 100% bared, or the consequences are borne by the people locally. Similarly in water, so you must have seen, of course, all the news reports about the Venice canals clearing up and the water turning transparent because there were no more gondolas going into the Venice canals over the lockdown. This is of the river called Yamuna. So Delhi is on the banks of a river called Yamuna, which is a tributary of the large river Ganges. And both the Yamuna and the Ganges, upstream of Delhi and upstream, a little more upstream of the Ganges, have very large industrial areas. And the stoppage, so this is from the Delhi Jal Board. Jal is water in Hindi. So the Delhi Water Board, the vice chairman in a report said that the stoppage of industrial pollutions and industrial wastes has definitely had a positive effect on the water. And this is a news report that was published. You can see visibly the improvement in the water condition. In the Ganges, which is a 2,500 plus kilometer river going from northwest to northeast of India, every day about 3,500 million liters of domestic sewage and 300 million liters of industrial effluent are discharged. Of this, only about 1,100 is treated. And the water quality, just because only the industrial effluent part, which is highly, of course, concentrated in pollutants, has stopped over this lockdown, the water quality has improved, right? The domestic sewage has not stopped, but the water quality has improved. And this was a report published in April 2020 on the impact of the lockdown on the water quality of the river Ganga, right? Transportation and energy. You might wonder why I'm separating the two between air and transportation and energy. This is specifically for the impact of us driving around our vehicles every day, and all the effect of us driving our vehicles every day, which is like increasing the amount of road dust and things like that. So road dust contributes to what is called as PM10, which is a particulate matter, which is measured in micrograms. per cubic meter, and similarly PM 2.5, which is very dangerous because it can go into your lungs and really settle in very deep. What you see here is the solid line in these graphs are what happened in 2020, and this is over a period. And here, the vertical bar here is when the lockdown was announced. And the dotted line here is the same period in 2019. What you see is such a dramatic drop in the air quality, in the NO2, right? NO2 comes from actual pollutants of energy production, so coal-based thermal power plants, and from vehicular traffic. So you see a clear impact versus this line of what the pollution was versus what this impact is. And India has been famous for having 14 of the 20 most polluted cities in the world. If you see the air quality index, and this is where lockdown was announced, this date here on 24th March, you can clearly see the cities going up in what is either good or satisfactory in the air quality index. In China, for example, they had a 40% drop in nitrogen oxide levels for January and February. It is equivalent to removing something like 192,000 cars. And this is another article, headline from another article: by shutting down swaths of the global economy, COVID-19 has exposed another respiratory health crisis. Of course, you are going to ask me about is EVs really better for the environment? I'm sure this is going to be a question. You can read this link later where we tackle some of these points. But what is important to know that every year, right, globally, every year, 7 million deaths are directly attributed to air pollution, right? Indoor, outdoor air pollution, 7 billion deaths are attributed to air pollution. Out of this, just in our area, so we are Asia Pacific, ESSEC Asia Pacific, so South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Western Pacific, 4 million deaths globally are attributed just to pollution, and this pollution that comes from road transport, power plants, etc. Right? Greenhouse gas emissions, tailpipe emissions, and even articles that were published recently about how just continuously breathing in the suit, especially in pregnant women. In pregnant women, the suit can travel even to the fetus during pregnancy. So it's quite important to realize the effect that our everyday transportation and everyday power production has on this. There is, of course, something that is to be positive about. For example, in 2014, China had the APEC meeting, and Beijing saw what is called as the APEC blue skies, right? So what they couldn't have achieved, or what they temporarily achieved during the Olympics, or in 2008, they had far-reaching effects in 2014. The changes that were implemented in China for the APEC meeting in 2014, over 4 years, reduced the pollution by 32% in 4 years. Similarly, in India, for example, there has been a dramatic increase in investment in renewable power. So even if you have an electric vehicle, your EV is only as green as a power source, right? So this is what is called as the long tailpipe of electric vehicles. So your EV is only as green as the power electricity that it uses. And in India, for example, the state where I'm from, it's called Karnataka. It's the federal state where the city of Bangalore is. In Karnataka, 63% of our electricity comes from renewable sources. The adjacent state to me, which is called Tamil Nadu, has about 49% coming from renewable sources. Up north, there are states like, for example, Uttarakhand or Himachal Pradesh, which are very strong in hydel. Himachal Pradesh, for example, has 94% of their energy coming from renewable sources. Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, by the way, have invested a lot in solar and wind, right? So, of course, on a very large policy level, there are things to be achieved, things being achieved. This lockdown in a very disturbing and perverse way has shown us what the actual baseline is. An example before I move to the next section was a very famous cricket sportsman shared a photograph from his town, which is about 200-300 kilometers away from the Himalayan mountain range. And for the first time in 30-40 years, the Himalayan mountain range was actually visible from his residence, which was usually not visible because of the amount of pollution that's there in that area, right? So case studies from Orxa Energies. So like I said, Orxa Energies, we do electric vehicles, which is the motorcycle, which is still in late stages of development. And for about the last 2 years, what we have been doing is we have been making battery packs, so lithium-ion battery packs for our customers. And I think it would be quite clear that we are a sustainable company, and our customers are also sustainable in what they do. So our customers, for example, I'm presenting here 2 customers who were deemed as essential services during the lockdown. So for example, they were running their business during the lockdown, right? And they were running their business enabled in a little way by our battery packs. The first example is a company called Freshworld. So Freshworld does door-to-door delivery of fruits and vegetables using completely electric carts. So they use battery-operated carts. These are their carts. And they do door-to-door delivery of vegetables. As you can imagine, the lockdown was in India, which was one of the most dramatic and severe lockdowns, which was across the world, was announced with some sort of like a 4-hour notice, right? It affected supply chain, especially of essential goods like fruits and vegetables, for a lot of people. Freshworld continued their supply. They were initially hit for about a week. They managed to recover and they managed to supply. What we do for them is we do battery packs. So these bank of battery packs go under the vehicle, right? And what they managed to do over this lockdown is they have doubled their runs. So previously they used to do only 1 run a day, right? And now they've been managed to do 2 runs a day, which has greatly benefited the end consumers who are otherwise stuck at home without access to fruits and vegetables that they would otherwise need for their houses. Yeah. So this is Freshworld. It's a retail sort of a customer, Bangalore based. The other customer is also an essential service, but this is a drone. These are this is a company called General Aeronautics. It's a very prestigious company. They have one of their founders is Dr. Kota Hari Narayana, who was previously the LCA program director. They do drones for different segments, agriculture and things like that. What they did over this lockdown period was something quite stunning. They pivoted, right? So usually these drones, these are their agricultural drones, which are used in for agricultural purposes, like either pesticides or fertilizers or surveillance, things like that, right? They pivoted. They used their 15-liter capacity that they have here for disinfectants to spray across the city. Okay, and they have managed to expand this operation with the municipal authorities completely free of charge. They're not charging the municipal, they have volunteered their services. They have completed 250 missions in 3 cities, and they've covered 3 lakh square kilometers of disinfection, which is very important. Otherwise, there are essential service workers, right? Human beings who have to go to these areas to do this mass disinfection, right? With the help of the drones that they have, the powerful drones that they would otherwise use for other purposes, they have volunteered their services. In 15 minutes, they cover something like 1.5 acres. And they have now covered 250 missions in 3 cities and 3 lakh square kilometers. This is very commendable, and we are happy to have helped in some way. So here is another startup that has something that's quite sustainable, which has pivoted to an advantageous role in this lockdown period, right? So this was basically 2 case studies of what Orxa Energies customers have done over this lockdown period. But you might really ask me right now, why am I talking about lessons on sustainability in this lockdown period, right? Coronavirus has hit us so bad that oil prices have crashed. People are struggling. There are people trying to revive the economy in different ways. The case I would like to present to you here for your consideration is that sustainability is a valid and a profitable business model, right? The impact of lockdown on pollution, on water, on air and energy has shown us what the baseline actually is in our cities, what blue skies actually look like. What I would like to present to you here is 6 startups who are doing extremely well in different parameters, whether you're talking about venture scale type of success, or in terms of the impact that they have, the business that they're doing, the revenues that they're generating, or in the actual sustainable development goals sort of impact. I would just like to let you know in terms of who these 6 startups are. So Sustainability Mafia is a group of sustainability startups. Myself, Ranjita, and Orxa Energies is a part of the Sustainability Mafia. We are a group of 100 plus sustainability leaders, industrialists, entrepreneurs, media persons, and other researchers. And our objective is to multiply the impact of sustainability businesses, right? We work on goal-oriented collaborations. So we are sustainability startups that work together, industries that work together to multiply the impact of sustainability. The other startups, so 5 startups of the 6 I present are through the Sustainability Mafia. And one of the startups that I present here is from our accelerator, which is Airbus BizLab, right? It is again split in the same 3 sections, which is water, air, and energy, right? So let's start with air. That's the most obvious thing that we see when it's so foggy and smoggy. So Devik Earth installs air purifiers. So I'm sure, especially people in Singapore, when the Indonesia crop burning happens, or in Delhi in winter, are more than aware of different types of air purifiers. These guys work on something different. They have a pulse wave technology, and they work on dry deposition, such that a very small device, in terms of area, can cover up to 200,000 square feet. And they work on removing not only the particulate pollutants, but also nitrogen oxides and other oxides. What they claim is that by installing their device, you will have a minimum improvement of 33%, whereas their actual improvement is something more in terms of 80 odd percent is what their case studies they have shown. So the founder of the startup is actually a medical doctor. He's a cardiologist, Dr. Srikanth, and they have been working on different technologies. And one of the technologies that Dr. Srikanth has worked on as a cardiologist, he has adapted to work on this air purifier technology. They focus on residences, so our own houses, large industries, commercial buildings, malls, theaters, etc. Right? And also half marathon. So you can see that the Delhi half marathon and the 25-kilometer Calcutta 25-kilometer run used their devices to make sure that the people who are participating in the marathons had good air to breathe. The other startup I want to say here is Ambi. Ambi works on hyperlocal air quality data. So they have their own sensor network. For example, in Bangalore alone, they have about 100 sensors in different places, and they have they use open data sources. And behind this, they have their own algorithm, their proprietary algorithm. And what this gives is within 300 milliseconds, you get real-time information about the air quality across different places, right? So their data is used by media, by air purification companies, by connected health companies, medical companies, etc. So these are 2 startups which work on air. In terms of water, FluxGen Engineering is a company that works exclusively on a very B2B model. Their target is large industries, for example. and they have worked with over 20 industrial units to save 1 billion liters of water. What they do is that they have an IoT, which is Internet of Things based water monitoring solution, and just a small device like this, and I have seen this working. Just a small device like this, which they install on your water system, and they can identify inefficiencies in water consumption, they can detect leakages, they can send out alerts, and they work real time to ensure you reduce your water consumption. And this is something that's very important for industries, especially people like dairy industries and other industries where water has to be heated. So you have to use either highly treated water like reverse osmosis water, which is a large process which consumes a lot of energy as well, or you have to heat water because you need hot water or steam for different processes. So just by saving water in this, you also save energy and energy consumption in other places. The other one is EcoSTP, which is a zero energy sewage treatment plant. Again, this works for commercial buildings, residential buildings, so large residential societies, for example. It treats sewage in a decentralized, self-sustainable way. When you remember the example that I mentioned about the domestic sewage runoff in the Ganges, it's something like 3,000 million liters every day, right? So using something that is decentralized and self-sustainable, with a very large reduction in maintenance costs, and complete adherence to pollution norms, right? So this EcoSTP has installed already in different real estate projects. So they work on something very simple. What they call it is the cow stomach. So you have a cow stomach which has 4 stomachs. So they use biomimicry and the bacteria to treat sewage in a very sustainable way. Energy, the last one, right? Orxa Solutions is a pay-per-use clean energy service. India is a very large agrarian economy, and most of the farm holdings in India are small farm holdings. And water is something obviously that's very necessary, but water, it depends a lot on people taking groundwater, right? A lot of agrarian communities across India use groundwater, and usually what they will do is they have diesel pumps, which means that the farmer, who is a small landholder and obviously not very well off, will have to invest not only in a diesel pump, but also the fuel which is needed for the diesel pump. What they do is a pay-per-use clean energy irrigation service. So a group of small holding farmers together will have this decentralized solar panel, which is linked to a pump, and hence they can pump water to their farm holding as and when it's needed. So they have already installed these affordable irrigation solutions. They are moving on to other things with decentralized solutions of cold storage and agricultural processing, right? They have worked with very large companies, and there's also a French connection. They have tied up with La French Tech and the European Union Regional Development Funds, right? The last one here in energy is a company called Smart Joules. Smart Joules, exactly like what FluxGen was doing for water, Smart Joules does for your energy consumption, right? So they have a IoT based device, and they have a pay as you save model. And what they do is they help you manage your energy. So for example, inefficient devices, or large air conditioning units for areas which are not occupied, electricity consumption audits. They will do these for you. They have a device that will sit on your system, on your electricity, and it will help you with their electronic systems, which is the embedded systems, plus their algorithm, which is proprietary to them, which is machine learning, they will help you, and they guarantee it's 15% energy savings. They have a target that the energy that they save from these, which is otherwise wasted, should be used for places which have less energy. So they are a very impact-oriented startup. And they have a large focus on hospitals. A lot of their successful case studies, including this graph, which I'm showing here, has been from hospitals, where they've helped them save a lot of energy every year, right? What was the objective of me showing you these 6 startups which work on sustainability? The crisis of coronavirus, of course, is a very large economic and humanitarian crisis. But in a perverse way, it shows us what the baseline actually is, and it gives us an opportunity for a clean energy future, right? In a lot of cases, especially the one that the case study which I presented of Delhi, the report by the pollution board, pollution is more than 70% locally produced and certainly 100% locally endured. There are, of course, solutions that need to be taken at a very high government or public policy level. These can mean greenhouse gas emission norms, effluent treatment norms, a governmental push to renewable energy production, incentives for EV adoption, etc. But these are at a very high esoteric level for you and me. What can we do as our own businesses or as individuals? We can make our own sustainability choices, avoid unnecessarily air travel, prefer public transport, prefer zero emission transport for personal transport, make sure we are using water efficient and energy efficient devices and appliances. These are things we can do as individuals. More than anything, what this proves is, in a way, that sustainability is great for business. There are different ways in which you have to evaluate businesses, especially startups. If you look at a VC who's trying to evaluate you for investment, what are you looking at? You're looking at strong, repetitive revenue streams. These last 6 startups which I presented have those. Right? They either have a pay-as-you-save model, a pay-as-you-go model, a subscription model, things like that. These are strong revenue models. They have a profitable and a scalable business, right? They have a very large target market, and they have very disruptive technology differentiators. For example, Smart Jewels and Fluxion, they work on IoT, right? These are, and Ambi and other companies have a very powerful machine learning algorithm behind them, right? So these provide whatever is the moat or the barrier to entry that you will need to protect your business, right? So in a way, sustainability is great for business. It makes a great business model, profitable business model, while also having the impact that we need to continue what advantages we see right now. So let's make sustainability the norm. So sustainability is, number 13 in the UN Sustainability Development Goals, the UN SDGs. And for this, I have a very important person here who wants to talk about it, right? So let's make sustainability sexy. Leonardo DiCaprio has been the UN ambassador for climate change for a while. Even since he was 24 years old, he started his own foundation, and over time he's invested in more than 35 innovative conservation projects. So when he became the UN ambassador, the hashtag was, what would Leo do, right, to make this sustainable? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ranjita. I'll start off the Q&A session with a question of my own first. I think that one question that I have actually is that after COVID-19, which industries do you feel that are actually employing sustainable practices would make the huge progress after COVID-19, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think a largest industry would be energy, right? But this is at a very large level. So investing the opportunity that you have from a lower oil price, taking that to invest in more renewable energy will have a very large scale impact. I think India has gone from having 71% thermal energy to having only 63% now, and this has to reduce even more. But investment in renewable energy, I think, would be the one that will change the air for us.
I understand. I think that what do you think actually would be the industries? Now that actually let's look at the flip side then. Which one do you think, which industries do you think will make the slowest progress or will not be able to, make a big impact after COVID-19 if they even be employing sustainable practices?
I think the industries that depend on oil, say plastics, single-use plastics, of course, has been something that's been very much spoken about. But the impact is so large at so many people's level, every single straw, every single plastic spoon, etc. So I think that will be much slower to change over time. That will take a long time to change that.
Next question we have is, how do you actually manufacture batteries and recycle batteries in a green way, considering the materials involved?
Yes, so for more detailed reading, please read that link which I had on my deck, which was, "Are EVs really better for the environment?" But I will take it up very shortly here. There are problems in manufacturing lithium-ion cells, right? Especially in the mining that happens. There is, of course, a strong push for sustainable mining. This is still in works. What we can do until then is making sure we use these batteries for as long as possible, right? So you start off by using them in vehicles, which require a very large energy density. Then you move them to places which require less energy density for storage. Say, for example, in your house, UPS, or in power storage in other cases, which require, you have a lot of space, but you don't need that much of an energy density. Find a second life, find a third life. Recycling of lithium-ion batteries is a very new technology. It is still developing. Our only target, what we should target now, is that whatever electric vehicles we put on road now with lithium-ion batteries, we should make sure they have a second life and a third life. And by then the technology would have caught up that you will be able to sustainably recycle them. Lithium-ion technology, energy storage technology in general, is also improving very rapidly. The person who invented lithium-ion batteries has already gone on to invent something even better right now. There are sodium, glass, other aluminium air storage methods that are coming out, which are more sustainable to mine or to create rather than lithium-ion itself. So at the moment, if you look at it, lithium-ion doesn't seem like the best solution, but it is the most commercially viable solution, and we can make it better by giving it a second life and a third life, and then making sure that it's recycled in the most appropriate way.
The next question I have is, what is your opinion on hydrogen-powered cars compared to EVs?
So these are all in different spectrum, right? So hydrogen power has its own challenges. Lithium-powered electric vehicles have their own challenges. And most of the challenge comes down to energy storage. If it can be done in a safe way, yes. The objective is zero tailpipe emission. The objective here is that we should not be breathing in soot and the nitrous oxides and the particulate matter in our cities. So yeah, if it can be made in a safe, sustainable way that is accessible to a lot of people, then whatever technology works.
Next question we have is, do you think that the governments, especially the Indian government, are supporting enough the development of sustainable energies through subsidies, for instance?
Yes. Yes. For example, I think India went, like I mentioned, right? We have increased our renewable sources of energy. So the power plants, the renewable power plants, 5 times. It has grown 5 times just in the last 20 years. I think India has set a target of having 100 gigawatts of just solar energy. Again, just like the lithium ion question, solar has its own question, right? So solar panels, are solar panels sustainable? How long are they used for? What is used in their storage? We need to evaluate these it's both. I mean, burning hydrocarbons, creating the pollution that the burning of the hydrocarbons creates and the incomplete consumption of that creates, versus the solar panels and the energy produced by solar panels, right?
Next question that we have is, will transport industries change to reduce nitrogen in India, or will they be more sustainable in short term? For example, train or made in India cars, for example.
As a vehicle manufacturer, you might think this is very contradictory, what I'm saying, but in cities, all transport should be public transport. It should be electric, sustainable public transport, and last mile connectivity should be either walking or cycling. And that's the only way that urban areas can sustainably grow. Public transport should be as sustainable and as accessible as possible. And personal vehicles should be restricted to a very premium or a very hobby category, right? That would be the ideal way in which cities develop. Cities which are car first are not sustainable. In no way is that model of urban development sustainable.
I want to reserve the last question here, which is, what do you see is the future for your company? Batteries, motorcycles, or a full line of transportation solutions?
We are an ecosystem player. We have other things up our sleeve, which we will be revealing over time. But one cannot exist without the other. Electric vehicles cannot exist without the energy storage solution. India, for example, has about 60,000 petrol stations. We have not even a few hundred electric vehicle charging stations, right? If EVs have to catch up and have to catch up very fast, you need to look at the energy storage in a very radically different way. So yes, we will be doing a bit of both.
Well, with that, this ends our Q&A session. I'd like to thank Ranjita for taking the time out to speak on this topic of sustainability. This concludes the end of our webinar. Thank you very much to our participants as well. And please stay safe and have a great day ahead. Thank you very much.
Stay safe, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.